Hey, it's Roy Newgate, and we're back, of course, with another One Piece discussion. And I have to say, I'm back in the lab again a lot earlier than I thought. I was thinking it'd be like another week before I put out another video, but uh, through some discussions I've been having throughout the week, I just got inspired to put this one out. So today I wanted to talk a little bit about Mihawk and specifically his fate in the story moving forward. There are some theories about how there may be a twist and Oda might be setting something up that we don't see coming. And I feel like this stems from the fact that people think that Mihawk isn't as important as other prominent top tiers. People are of the mind that Mihawk is only there to give Zoro a goal. And I don't see it that way at all. I think Mihawk is much more than just Zoro's end goal. But for the people that think Mihawk is this one-dimensional character with very little purpose, there is the theory that Mihawk will be defeated by Shiryu. And for that theory in particular, I think there's an abundance of reasons why it doesn't compute, it doesn't add up. I know there may be the idea that Oda's going to turn this into a revenge story, but I don't think Oda wants to make Zoro out to be an Avenger. I don't think he wants to set him up to get some sort of justice for the man who trained him, because I guess there's an idea that the relationship between Zoro and Mihawk has gone from rivals to friends, and I don't think that's the case at all. I think they still very much have that rivalry in place. Nothing has changed. The battle for supremacy in terms of the world's most powerful swordsman is still very much there for these two. Aside from the plot perspective, there's also the fact that I don't think Shiryu should be capable of defeating Mihawk, period. For that, theory in itself, I don't think he has that power. And then, you might bring up the fact that if this theory was, going to have any semblance of credibility, then Shiryu will get this done by underhanded means to set up this Avenger story for Zoro and everything. But again, I don't see the merit in that for the story going forward, because when it comes to these theories and everything, I feel like there has to be purpose. It can't just be there just for the fun of it, just to have something new, something different than what people are expecting. There has to be a payoff to the overall story. And of course, Mihawk himself already made the oath to Zoro that he would stay at the top and wait for Zoro there. So the idea that Zoro is chasing the title and not Mihawk, so it's okay if Shiryu becomes the world's strongest swordsman by defeating Mihawk, I don't think that's a good perspective to hold at all, because the fact is Mihawk is the one that we're waiting to see go all out, where he's the one with all these abilities we're expecting. And there's the lore, you can't overlook that aspect. The fact that we don't even know how long he's been the world's strongest swordsman, that's for one. And the fact that he wields the world's strongest weapon, potentially the strongest weapon of all time, leaving aside the ancient weapons. But when it comes to just bladed weapons or, individual weapons, his sword is possibly the strongest ever. So Zoro has to be able to overcome this, and we have to learn more about how these weapons are forged and how Mihawk managed to make his the strongest in the world. We're not going to get that from Shiryu or any other swordsman or sword wielder who may challenge Zoro after Mihawk. This is it. This is the pinnacle of power when it comes to swordsmanship. And beyond that, beyond just, what he has done with his blade, there's also new levels of observation haki that might be touched on when Zoro faces Mihawk. And Zoro might have to be at a certain level to be able to contend with him, because Mihawk has this portrayal around him where he may potentially be the strongest observation haki user in the series. The man is called Hawkeyes. His former epithet was a clairvoyant, and all of that together just tells you that his observation haki is not one to be, overlooked. So that's why I feel like Mihawk isn't just an obstacle for Zoro. He's also there to show us how great you have to be the world's strongest swordsman, and how weighted, being a swordsman is in this series. Because he has accolades that not even the Pirate King himself, Gold Roger, has. And I know we don't have the full story on like why does Roger not have a black blade, or why does Shanks not have a black blade, or any other swordsman for that matter. But there's something there. There's something more that we have to learn through Mihawk, and we need to learn more about the opponents he's defeated, and how he got to the top, and just everything there, his backstory and everything. And going back to Zoro, That's what Zoro has to overcome. By defeating this man, he'll have to overcome this decades long reign and all these opponents that Mihawk has fought. You know, anyone who Mihawk has defeated, Zoro will be over them automatically as well. Because it's not like Zoro himself will be using any underhanded means. Zoro will be working, tooth and nail to overcome Dracule Mihawk. And I feel like another aspect of it that people often bring up that makes them think that Oda just doesn't care about Mihawk. Especially, since we've just been through Wano and there was no mention of Mihawk. For one, I don't think Mihawk was supposed to be mentioned just because he's a swordsman or just because he's the world's strongest swordsman, because it has to have some sort of relevance to the current story. And Mihawk being the world's strongest, it's not like the Wano citizens were going to mention him and say something like, oh, if that guy Dracule Mihawk was here, he would have taken down Kaido for us or anything like that. I think Oda inserted Mihawk or, Mihawk's presence or what he represents subtly, and I think that was enough. It would have been nice for Zoro to say, "Oh, I'm the man who will become the world's strongest swordsman. I have to surpass Dracule Mihawk." But in the King fight, King did mention Zoro has a kingly ambition, and he did mention the promise he made to Kuina and Luffy. And on one hand, you have Shanks, who's been getting all these, all these mentions, and in recent chapters, he's been looking great and everything, and that has people saying, "Oh, if Shanks is getting this, why isn't Mihawk getting anything? Oda really must not care about this man." But I don't think that makes any sense at all, because the fact is the story isn't over, and Mihawk's time to shine just isn't there yet. People often look back at Marineford and say, "Oh, Mihawk did poorly. He looked bad. He didn't look like a top tier." But again, that goes to my last video. You can't judge people solely based on what they do on panel or how they interact with people or certain characters when it comes to trying to perceive or trying to gauge their overall power. You have to take their personalities into account and their motivations. And with Marineford specifically, Mihawk wasn't out there to, trying to prove anything. He wasn't trying to, take anyone out, or he was just there to learn and everything. So when people use Marineford to downplay his portrayal or how much Oda cares about his presence, I think it's very silly, because there's a lot not being taken into account. And in the last chapter, we have Mihawk aligning with Buggy in some way. Well, Buggy and Crocodile specifically, because obviously these three warlords came together for the purpose of, I guess for Mihawk specifically, I think he just wants something fun to do in the meantime while he's no longer a warlord. And we saw how excited he was to have the chance to fight again. But overall, main point is, I think that people are just being impatient. And I know it's a long story. It's been 25 years, I believe. And Mihawk hasn't gotten as much, I suppose, on-panel hype as other top tiers. But I think that's just all a matter of placement and, where the story is at. But his time will come for sure. Even before Zoro fights Mihawk, we'll have a lot to go off of for him to, really compare him to other top tiers without mentioning his title. Because of course that's what Mihawk is leaning on right now to support his portrayal. If that wasn't there, I'd see people's perspective on why they question how powerful Mihawk is and everything. And we still have his bounty on the way, depending on how high it is, that could do a lot for Mihawk and his overall portrayal. It may boost him a little bit, and in the minds of certain fans, he might look a lot better than he has for them throughout the story. And the fact that Oda has introduced this whole thing with the Cross Guild and them hunting Marines and everything, or having bounties placed on the heads of Marines, I think this can do a lot for the story as well. I think this was a great idea by Oda, because for Mihawk, for example, what if he comes face to face with some admirals or something, and he has to defeat an admiral? And I mean, obviously, I don't think he's interested in the actual bounty, but the challenge, the fun of it, being in battle again with some notable opponents. I think that gives Mihawk a lot of potential to be able to give him some very notable accomplishments before he fights Zoro, to stack on top of what he may have already done before he even became a warlord. And we'll see that in the coming chapters or the coming saga. Overall, though, I think the point is has gotten across throughout this video. Like, I do believe Mihawk will remain the predator. He will remain at the top until Zoro comes there to take him off his throne. I don't think anybody else has any right to that claim or anything like that. I think it'll be Zoro versus Mihawk to end this rivalry. But that's all I have to say on this topic. But tell me what you think. Do you think Mihawk's portrayal in the story has been good? Do you think he needs more, you know, to really convince people that he's as powerful as his title implies? And what are your thoughts on the whole Shiryu killing Mihawk theory, or Mihawk being dethroned before Zoro gets to him? Tell me what you think about that. And also, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, hit the bell, and like the video as well.